and still working at a high rate. Jumping on this series, which has historical ties. What was sort of just your approach? What was sort of the vibes? Picking up this role.
It was well written. There's a lot of crappy scripts out there. I've made a lot of them, and so I'm grateful to the movies that sucked in my day, because it informs you to the stuff that you really want to do. And when something's well written, you go, hey, that's pretty good. So that's it. If it's a horror project, I ask more questions. And there were good people involved. Peacock's a real outlet, and Julie Bowen, Anna Camp. None of them are slouches. It's good stuff. So that's why.
Appreciate the answer.
Okay, thanks everybody.
All right.
Although, how does stepping into the role of Chief Dandridge compare to your iconic portrayal of Ash?
It's
Or
very
even
different.
As Ronald Reagan?
It's a different part. Ronald Reagan is a different part. As an actor, you're supposed to do what the part demands. So if he's not cracking jokes, then I'm not cracking jokes. He's the straight man.
Does that present unique challenges compared to previous
No,
roles?
no, none whatsoever. I consider myself to be a reasonable man, so you play a reasonable man. You need that in this story, in this small town. Someone's got to keep the shit wired until you can't.
Our Mega Comic Crusaders. So given your experience with horror and dark humor, so how does Hysteria blend those elements in the story?
They don't usually blend. Horror and comedy, unbeknownst to the current approaches, is not always a good blend. We first did it with Evil Dead 2. We called it Splat Stick, where you blend a little horror and a little comedy, but only because we were Three Stooges fans.
Okay.
So, the guy cut his hand off and he'd cover it with a book that says farewell to arms. I mean, there's gags everywhere in that. It's like a Looney Tunes cartoon, Evil Dead 2. So we just didn't like the grim horror. And to this day, I don't like grim horror. I don't like torture porn. Put some guy's dick in a vice and poke it with a stick for 30 minutes. That's not horror. That's lazy filmmaking, lazy writing, lazy execution, lazy filmmaking. Where's the suspense? Where's the scare? Where's the mood? Where's the acting? So there's a lot of components that people don't fully realize.
100. There we go.
Bruce, I have a question. Of course, you're iconic in this genre of the comedy and the horror, and you're working with this new up and coming cast.
Yeah.
Were there any teachable moments on your side?
Yeah, show up, be on time, know your lines. That's really the basics for actors. And if you can you'd be stunned at how many actors show up and they don't know their lines. And you're like, dude, how'd you get this part? And they're terrified, because they don't know their lines. So you can't build any kind of a performance whatsoever if you're thinking in your brain, shit, what's the next line? You have to get beyond that and get comfortable. So if the director goes, hey, do it twice as fast, and do it with a wink in you, do it with a smile, you can do it. Do it slow, a single tear. You can do it because you know your lines. So it's so fundamental. Wouldn't you say free throws win basketball games? Not the big three-pointers at the buzzer. That's pretty rare unless you're the big shots. Yeah. The average schmo will win that game with a free throw.
Yeah.
You can point to any point in the game where that schmo got 2 in a row and won the game.
Yeah.
So it's fundamentals. That's it. You kids want to get off set and go party? Well, get on set, do your work, and then go have your fun. But be professional. I'm a big fan of professionalism because I don't take much seriously, but I actually take my work seriously. Shut up, do the work, get out of there.
Boom.
I wanted to ask about the rash.
Okay,
Because
I'm
that
not sure if
was-
I could tell you the answer to that.
Yeah, that was like, I thought it was maybe a sign of possession, and I was expecting at the end of the season
Could just
that
be
Chief
eczema,
Dandridge
you know?
was just gonna,
The
go off.
heartbreak of psoriasis.
But, so there's no indication of what it might represent or how he got it.
Here's the good news about this show. They tell you not to do spoilers.
Yeah.
I can't spoil this show because I don't know what this show is about because there's so many twists and turns, which is fantastic. You read the new script, you go, huh? Read the next one, huh? I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what's fun.
What does series television do for you that like a movie does? Like what's a
The ability to adapt with the character. Like I did a show, Burn Notice, for 7 seasons, and I started speaking how the writers wrote. And by 7 seasons, they wrote how I talked. So there's always, you get a better blend, you get a chance to round out the characters. you go, wow, that previous episode, the guy was a bonehead. This one, he's, and you can really work on it, and you see how it plays. And over time, the writers go, hey, he's good at this. Let's do more of this. He sucks at that. Let's do less that. And so everything adapts. And hopefully you get a really good symbiosis. The writers, they trust you, you trust them. Like I see certain scripts with certain names on it, I get excited. And I see other scripts and I go, this is going to be a stiff. So, yeah.
Right. The creators have said that the resident theme of the show is that every generation of parents feels a hysteria, pun intended, with the world their children are growing up in. Can you explain a story of when you were a teenager that kind of worried your parents? And
I listened to the frickin' Carpenters when I was a kid. So my parents were worried in a different direction. They thought I would go Lawrence Welk on them or something. I don't know. My dad got a new stereo, the kind where if you tuned it in right, the red light would come on. And he had these headphones that you could blow up to fit your head perfectly. And the first song I heard in stereo was the Carpenters, Looking Down on Creation, or some sappy song like that. And I went, this is the most beautiful music ever written. And that kind of ruined everything. So my kids were, born in the Reagan era. And that was a very my way or the highway, right is wrong, drugs are bad, the whole bit. And every time you have that, you're going to have pushback. So if you tell someone that this music is satanic, then there's going to be some people who go, great, I'm going to start writing some satanic shit. Just out of spite. I think it's just human nature. Whenever there's a chance to push back, humans will. And because, all this panic that happened, a couple of reporters followed all of these reports over the years and really followed any kind of court cases of was there satanic worship? Could we prove, was there a sacrifice of any child? They couldn't find shit that actually stuck with anybody that lets you know what a crock the whole thing was. There's always going to be a certain percentage of society that's twisted and doing weird shit. Nothing spiked during that time. Just the bullshit. It shows you, though, disinformation is not new. It's as old as the hills. They used to call certain journalism yellow journalism. The paper was just shitty paper. It was actually yellow paper. And it was all just the crappy headlines to get you to buy it.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed.
We have the premiere tomorrow.
Yeah.
Peacock, October
Good.
18th.
Yeah.
Why do people need to tune in?
Horror is mainstream now, man.
It is.
You like horror, come on down. I used to be a little more hesitant about talking about horror because there was, in my day there was porno, and then horror was one rung above porno. And now it's just another genre. So I give a lot of credit to shows like The Walking Dead. You have 10 million people watching your show for 10 years. That's not a cult anymore. It's mainstream. So hats off to all the pioneers who led the way, us included.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We were unrated, by the way. And now the new hit movie is unrated.